nice people. Let me get this stuff logged in and we will get rolling. Happy Monday. Cannot believe we're already in April. This is crazy. Good deal. I am logged in on both here, so we will get rolling. Good morning. I am Dr. Alexis Morgan, physical therapist, lead faculty with Christina Previtt with the clinical management of the fitness athlete, pregnancy, and postpartum. Really excited to come to you all today on the PT on Ice Daily Show, and we are going to be talking about whether or not birth has become over medicalized. First, I want to talk about a couple of announcements and then we'll jump in. So, if you are not part of Virtual ICE, enrollment starts very soon. It starts April 13th through April 20th. If you are part of Virtual ICE, this Tuesday and next Tuesday, Christina and I both will be presenting on topics surrounding fitness athletes within pregnancy and postpartum. So we are going to be talking about pelvic organ prolapse and diastasis recti. So be sure to mark your calendars. Don't forget to join in on that. It's going to be two really fun talks, 2 weeks in a row. So that's with Virtual ICE. Again, if you're not already registered, registration is coming up soon for this next opening, this next enrollment of Virtual ICE. So if you're loving all of these topics, we would love to have you in our 8-week online course that begins on May 4th. That's our next cohort. So you can hop on over to ice.physio and check out all of our offerings online there. So, has birth become over medicalized? Here's the problem. It has become over medicalized. Birth it has become this issue in the medical system, and it is creating a lot of distress and a lot of problems for individuals that we are then seeing after care or after birth. And we are trying to help these individuals get back to life and get back to their sport. We know as physical therapists just how bad the medical system can be, right? We talk about it a lot and we see it every single day. And part of our mission here is to improve that and to mitigate that and to make this experience so much better for our patients and our clients when they need help. We've seen it in these systems all the time. It looks like a shoulder surgery when the actual issue is in the neck, right? How many times have we seen that? Oh, it's heartbreaking. Or imaging backs, even though every single clinical practice guideline in the world suggests that they need conservative care first. And then what does that end up doing? That creates this spiral and all of these effects that downstream just wind up impacting these people's lives. And we're seeing the exact same thing happen in the birth world. It's so similar between what we talk about and what we see in musculoskeletal care and what we're seeing in the birth care. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But first, I do want a disclaimer. I'm not saying that interventions are the worst thing. I'm not saying that interventions should never occur. I'm not saying that in the birth world. I'm not saying that in musculoskeletal world. We know sometimes surgeries, a knee surgery, a hip replacement, we know sometimes with trauma, these things are necessary, or without trauma, these things are necessary. The question is not, are interventions necessary? The question is, are they as necessary as they're utilized. Cesarean section rates in the 70s were at 5%. 5% of all births ended with a cesarean. Fast forward to in 2016, 31.9% of births were cesarean. A cesarean section is a major abdominal surgery. It requires major recovery afterwards. Going from 5% to 32%, we have to wonder, is that all necessary? Now, again, don't mishear me. I'm not saying that we don't need to have cesarean sections. I myself was born through a cesarean. I am really, really glad that we have that surgery, or else I wouldn't be here. I am so thankful for that. I am just curious if it's needed every single time. So, where do we go from here? We're seeing so many of these similarities between these worlds of several interventions that may not be necessary. And where do we go? Well, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology actually recently put out a clinical guideline, a commentary on approaches to limit interventions during birth. See, they recognize too that there is an issue, that there is a lot of medicalization of birth, a lot of interventions that were not necessary every single time. So there were 3 findings that I'm going to go through today. Now, there were several topics in this paper, and I highly recommend you go back. I'll post it in the comments below. I highly recommend you go and read it and learn for yourself. I'm just going to be talking about 3 of those topics today. So number 1, it actually matters when the person is admitted to the hospital. The longer you wait to be admitted, the lower your risk of intervention. And that makes sense, right? If you are laboring at home, you're not going to be in the medical system just yet. You're not going to be around the medical personnel who are potentially going to say, we need this or that intervention. When you labor at home for longer, you have a lower risk of intervention. That is something really key that we need to know. Secondly, non-pharmacologic pain management strategies are available. There's a trend of more individuals wanting to go a non-pharmacologic route and setting that as kind of a birth goal. And in a traditional medical system, that's not always understood and not always promoted. But this paper is suggesting that, yes, we need to go this conservative route first. And so that if the individual wants that. And so what that looks like is massage from your labor partner, or having a doula with you, water immersion, just hydration, drinking water, and changing positions, moving into positions of comfort. Again, it goes back to the first point, if we can labor at home, what that allows the individual to do is to change positions, to potentially, while we're talking about early labor, lay in bed and rest between the surges, right? Or to take a shower, or just the simple ability to move around is going to help with that pain management strategy, rather than being in one room or in one bed confined to one position. So we want to have these we want to promote good movement when available and when possible. And third, there was actually a Cochrane review that says when we have continuous support during labor, so we're not talking about medical personnel. They're coming in and out, But when we have continuous labor or continuous support during labor, such as with a doula, an individual who specializes in providing that constant support during labor, we actually have less interventions during birth. So this Cochrane review showed that when there is that continuous support, that helps with shortened labor, so less time during labor, that's a win, less need for analgesics, fewer operative deliveries. The next one is huge. Fewer reports of dissatisfaction with the labor experience. And number 5, having that continuous support during labor actually helps having better APGAR scores for the baby. So support throughout from an educated family member or a professional or both significantly improves the outcomes of birth. I want to go back to that first point, or that fourth point that we discussed here, the fewer reports of dissatisfaction with the labor experience. This is something postpartum we see a lot. We see a lot of individuals with psychological distress from that labor experience, especially in those first births where we're not really sure what to expect. And a lot of things can go a lot of different directions. If something goes wrong, then everybody flies into the room, and sometimes the individual giving birth has no idea what's going on. And having that continuous support there and talking to the individual and telling them, okay, here's what we're going to do. What do you want to do? You've got this option and that option. What do you want? And allowing that just provides that better birth experience. And so even if there's a lot of trauma on board, physical, even if it ends up in a birth scenario that the person did not go into labor desiring, those outcomes are better. And this is huge, huge, huge when we talk about recovery. We know this, right? We know this, that when we have beliefs and expectations, right, that drives those outcomes. And so when we can have this better experience, that drives better outcomes. This is very important for our individuals that we see during pregnancy as they're preparing for birth, educating them on all of these factors so that they can optimize that recovery. Because at the end of the day, while we are helping individuals get back to their fitness athlete sports, their barbell lifting, their power lifting, CrossFit, while we're helping them get back to that, oftentimes first, it's just getting back to moving around without pain or intercourse without pain. All of these things, all of these daily activities, we're often helping with first. They need to be able to go to the bathroom without having issues before they're really thinking about getting back to the barbell. So if we can, as early and upstream as possible, intervene and educate and get them prepared, then this latter part, the recovery, is so much better for that individual. So a few action items here today. Number 1, connect with some birth educators in your area. Learn from them. Ask questions and see what all you can learn. It's pretty amazing. But connect with these doulas in your area. Recognize that can be a two-way street for referrals. You can refer to them and they will refer to you. And it's a wonderful network of providers they just care. And they're just like us, and they want to have those good experiences for their clients, and so do we. So it ends up being a really, really nice pairing. Doulas, they help in all areas of birth. Oftentimes, it's thought that doulas just help with home births. Absolutely not. They will go into the hospital with the individual. They will help promote anything and everything that the individual wants out of their birth, and they will help make that a much better experience. So whether that's the individual absolutely wants an epidural or absolutely does not, that person will be there to support. In a hospital, in a birth suite, with or without all of these things, they're just helping navigate the medical system and trying to keep them on the outskirts as much as possible. And even with what we consider as a big medical intervention, a cesarean section, even with that, there are ways to reduce that medicalization of it, to provide the lights to be dimmer, to have the pulse ox instead of on their finger, on their toes, so they can be mobile. All of these things, again, we're just looking for a good experience here, as good as possible, so that we can get those birth outcomes as wonderful as possible. So connect with birth educators or doulas in your area, and B, get comfortable treating this population. Get comfortable having these conversations with individuals and educating people. So many just don't know what to expect and don't know which areas to go. And while there's books galore out there, not everyone wants to read a book this thick about birth. Sometimes they need that one-on-one interaction and that education provided human to human. And that's where this comes in. So if you're not comfortable with this area, I encourage you to hop online and take our 8-week course where we go through all the things. In our current cohort right now, we're discussing exactly this stuff right here: birth and outcomes and early postpartum recovery. It's so, so important, and it's that foundation to return postpartum. So I will post in the links below some of the resources that you can dive into if you're interested from this podcast today. And tag me, ask me any questions. I would love to have a conversation about this. Thank you for your time. I will see you next time. Happy Monday.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.